Hey, oh, there we go. Got it. Got it. Okay. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Getting Back to Zero Thursday edition. I'm your main host, Jeff G, calling from Vail, Colorado tonight. I actually am at a resort here in Vail for my niece's wedding, which she'll start, I guess, tomorrow. So we're going to hit a couple of restaurants tonight. I know that I am going to be surrounded by booze for the next 3 days. I do have my toolkit ready. I got plenty of Diet Pepsi I picked up today. I'll be good, but it's one of those, even when I just saw the mountains and I got flashbacks about growing up in Northern California skiing all the time. And it really, it was like that little, boy, it sure would be nice to have one cold beer. And then I thought, well, let's be honest, that would turn into 27 cold beers and it would turn ugly. So I know it's not going to be a problem, but regardless, I am taking great care to ensure I've got credibility. I got a phone that's fully charged with lots of phone numbers if I need. I've got plenty of, I will not walk into any receptions or whatever without a Diet Pepsi in my hand or an iced tea or something. So we'll get through it, but it's, it'll be fun. I'm actually really looking forward to the weekend. So we've got a great guest, and Peggy is here to help join us or to help talk with Rachel. I was, she said that we are going to talk with someone. She asked if you're an empath or a highly sensitive person. I thought that's great. Now, I don't have a freaking clue what the hell an empath means or is or any of that. So, but I did say the highly sensitive. Those of you that know me, just come over and we can watch Field of Dreams and watch me cry at the end of that one. So yeah, I am weenie extraordinaire when it comes to being sensitive. The empath part, I have no clue what that means. But anyways, with that, Rachel, welcome to Getting Back to Zero. And I'm going to put Peggy, how you doing? Good to see everyone.
How are you? It's nice that you're on vacation again. Seems like you were on vacation every week.
Listen, as a vacation and weddings usually don't go together in the same sentence with me. So they're normally not the same, but this will be fun. The location is good. So Rachel, welcome. How are you doing? Where are you? And what the hell is an empath?
Well, thanks for having me.
I
am in Northern California. So when you said, you thought about growing up in this area.
Sacramento here.
Yeah. Huh?
I was a Sacramentan growing up.
Nice. Yeah, I'm not too far. I'm in the Bay Area, so a little further.
Okay, good deal.
South, but yeah, not too far. I love Lake Tahoe. Love going up there to the snow. So yeah, the mountains are beautiful here. But thank you guys so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here and to tell you all about, what it is to be an empath and highly sensitive person and what I do, and talking about self-help and how it can, hopefully this stuff can help you. So to start, I'm a life and success coach. I call myself mainly a mindset coach for empaths and highly sensitive people. I'm also an NLP and Reiki practitioner and a clinical hypnotherapist. So all in all, I work a lot with the subconscious mind and energetics with self-help, because I think there's so much in the back of our mind, like things playing on loop that we aren't always consciously aware of, that can really, once we become more aware of those things and start to understand them, we can really help ourselves on an identity-based level. So an empath is basically someone who feels other people's feelings as their own. We're just a little bit more highly sensitive. And then a highly sensitive person, it's actually a trait you're born with, and it's parts of your brain are sort of more active. So it means like you are not sensitive in the way that a lot of modern language uses it, but sensitive, like your system is just more affected by external stimuli. So bright lights in classrooms or in, working environments, or loud noises, or someone that might be, if you had, a caregiver that might have had really big emotions or anger, anything like that, that can really affect our nervous system a lot more. So they are similar. Not all highly sensitive people are empaths. Not all empaths are highly sensitive people. Often a lot of us are both. Highly sensitive people make up around 15 to 20% of the population. And empaths basically are kind of on the extreme end of it, because usually you are a little bit more sensitive to external stimuli and other people's emotions. So some
Is that
examples.
something?
Yeah,
Is that something? Is that something typically you're born with? Because I was one of those kids that was, always concerned about others' feelings. I think I definitely carry more of that. So that's not a learned behavior or a developed behavior? It's more of a born with?
Yeah, it's more of what you're born with. Empath is sort of like, you kind of have to decipher for yourself if you feel you're an empath. And there are people that are very sensitive to animals. Like I tend to experience that a lot. People who connect deeply with maybe music, or if it's people, there's different kind of ways that you can be an empath and feel things really deeply, and you feel it in your system. So yeah, it's something you're born with. And being an empath is different than empathy. So when you're an empath, it's the way I like to explain it, it's sort of like energetically, it feels like you're trying to sift sand through a fishing net. Like other people's energy really gets to you, affects you. So it's like, you might have found yourself in situations where someone says, this person I know passed away, or my dog passed, and you might find yourself tearing up, or you feel their feelings, and you're like, oh my, I'm so sorry. And it's more where you are feeling it. I've also heard it explained before where, and I should also add, you are born as an empath, but some people also experience it on a really deep level. And some people have kind of more natural boundaries. So I've heard it explained like, for some people, it's like watching a movie or watching TV. Like you might tear up or get emotional watching the character move through something really deeply. And then when you finish the movie, it's not yours to carry. Or maybe if it's even a documentary, you're like, okay, that's upsetting, but I can move on with my life. Whereas there are some empaths who you think about it, you feel it so intensely, and the next day you're like, gosh, I wonder how that person's doing. And it just really, it kind of like gets into your system more. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely something, I think it takes some reflecting and sort of a lot of conversations about what it's like to be an empath and those different experiences. And then you kind of start to realize like, oh, I do that, or I did that, or that was
great. So
yeah.
I got let's see, alcoholic, anxiety,
That's
and
a good
now
thing.
and now we can add empath onto the list of another thing I'm carrying. So is it? I shouldn't even say this because I'm going to offend people, but is it wrong when I get more upset when I hear about a dog dying than a human sometimes?
Oh no, I feel that 100%. No, I think it's different. I think with animals a little bit, but yeah, I get very upset. Like after Marley and Me, no more animals getting hurt in movies. I can't handle it. I can't handle it. But yeah, so that's kind of I guess a deeper explanation of what being an empath is. And I guess that kind of leads me into, I really don't look at being sensitive as a bad thing. And I think our society has often deemed it as a negative trait or a negative thing about us, especially for men. Society has really done a lot of suppress, don't show your emotions, don't cry. I mean, even for any gender, in the workplace, they often say, well, don't show your emotions, it's unprofessional. Or, if you show basically humanness, that might make you seem like you're not capable of handling a promotion. That's something I heard was, don't show your emotions, that can affect if you get promoted. And so my mission is really to help people understand it's not a negative thing. It's really is a superpower. Like we are able to love at a greater depth. We're able to feel music at a greater depth, experience connections with animals at a greater depth, and just connect with people on a greater depth. Like we can hold deep conversations on a deeper level often because of this. So that's one thing, is I'm here to say, it's really not a bad thing, but it's also okay to understand that it has been perceived as bad a lot, and society tries to kind of frame it that way. So yeah, a lot of my work is self-acceptance, self-love, and creating a space in your mind and in your physical body that feels safe to feel emotions and know that it's not a bad thing. And it doesn't mean that you're, falling apart or anything like that.
Yeah, right. This is such a great segue to, I know when I first quit drinking, if we're in any kind of meetings, you will hear so many of the people say, I'm an empath, and I drank so that I could shut my feelings down.
Mhm.
And I really, really get that. And I love the fact that you're in a business where you're unshaming feeling, because that really brings not just alcohol, but drugs and overspending, overeating, all those things that we do to say, wow, because we're getting that inner message that says it's really bad to have feelings. It's really bad to be sensitive about that. So can you talk a little bit more about that? Do you get clients that, and I want to go back just a little bit, because I'm a firm believer that once we get sober, that's just getting sober. We quit drinking, right? But there's this emotional sobriety that happens with the work that you do after. Because if you've been drinking for a while, then you're numbing all those feelings out, or you're shamed about those feelings. Or, I laugh, but both my boys, they watch Land Before Time. It's a animated film. And when the mom dies in the beginning, both my boys, they're in their 40s. They have to go in another room. And it's not real, buds. It's not really happening. So I love that you're here for this, because people want to know what's next after they stop drinking. And I love that. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So a lot, like, the reason I'm so obsessed with the subconscious mind specifically, and why I love NLP and hypnosis and all that, is because our subconscious mind holds a lot of our inner deep beliefs from childhood. So it's not necessarily even the feelings we're afraid of feeling. It's all the stories tied to what will happen when we feel the feeling. So, it kind of is and it isn't. So it's like, oftentimes, if we feel, okay, if I feel grief, that means I'm going to be, we might think, because maybe maybe there's something from childhood that really got cemented into our subconscious mind, that we think we have that playing on a loop. If I feel grief, then I will, I won't be able to go to work. I'll fall apart completely. And oftentimes there's all these stories tied to it. So what I like to do is really start to understand what is underneath that. What are the stories tied to those beliefs, those feelings? And how can we start to say, okay, what if that doesn't happen? How can we make it safe to feel in your body? So there's some different modalities I use and things I do. And I think what you touched on is great. It's it's fear, really. A lot of times it's that fear of, again, what will happen when I feel this way? What will my life look like? And yeah, I think the emotional sobriety part ties into, again, that emotional safety, right? Because I personally have moved through stuff where it didn't feel safe to feel certain feelings. It came down to safety. And I felt emotionally very unsafe when those feelings came in. So a few things you can do is kind of ask yourself, what is behind that, or what would happen? What does it mean about me if I feel this thing? Or if this thing happens, what does it mean? And what that does is it just sort of gets your subconscious mind to give you an answer. Because a little hack is, if you ask yourself a question like that, your brain will literally search for answers. So if you ask yourself that question, it'll start to bring to the surface, okay, what is really behind this? Is it really XYZ, or is it something else? Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. And so I guess I'll touch a little bit, kind of weave in a little bit of my story into this, because it might be helpful. So I dealt with a lot of loss, or people close to me growing up who had really serious illnesses and spent a lot of time in hospitals. And when I was around that, I found myself sort of stuffing a lot of emotions and not wanting to feel it, or being afraid that if I felt it, again, it was like something bad would happen, and it created these stories and these things in my mind. And even thinking about, you know, something happening to someone close to me would make my anxiety a lot worse. And mental health and self-help, obviously, it's like clearly goes together. And with that, basically, I had to learn, okay, when this feeling is here in my body, I don't have to run from it, and I don't have to resist it. And that's a big piece, is that we are often resisting it so hard. And, you know, maybe with alcohol or drugs or any kind of addiction, again, like you touched on, Peggy, you know, there's masking going on, or there's running or wanting to say, okay, I want to numb this for a little bit, but it always comes back. And so some work you can do is kind of noticing the feeling. Some people call it dropping into your body. It's sort of coming into getting connected with your physical body and asking yourself, okay, if I'm feeling fear, I'm feeling shame, or I'm feeling whatever it is, where is it in my body? Right? Asking, okay, maybe it's in my chest, maybe it's in my throat, and saying, okay, how big is it? You know, how small is it? And so that's a lot of what I do with clients, is guiding through connecting with your physical body. And it's something you can do at home on your own, is saying, where is it? And just noticing it. And what I imagine is it's almost like that feeling or that emotion is sort of like, if you imagine like a little kid kind of tugging on your shirt saying, you know, I'm scared, like you're, I don't know, in a haunted house or something, let's say, like, but them saying I'm scared or I'm nervous or something, you know, you wouldn't look at a child and say, well, screw you. You know, you would usually be compassionate, especially everybody that's empaths and highly sensitive people, and say, okay, like, it's okay to be scared, right? But we don't tell ourselves that often. We think, well, I don't want to feel that. So sometimes what I try to do is almost visualize, is again, connecting with the body, and then visualize, okay, if this fear or shame or whatever is coming up, where is it? And then kind of imagine the tugging and say, okay, it's allowed to be here. Because again, just saying it's allowed to be here, I don't have to run from it, I think is really empowering and really powerful. And just kind of noticing it, and people call it witnessing, and just sort of breathing through it. And you can cry through it, you can release whatever you need to do, but simply kind of allowing it to be there sometimes almost takes away that anxiety and that need to like run from it and get away, like I've personally felt with my own mental health. And for me personally, and a lot of my clients, it's huge, of just simply saying, I'm allowed to feel this way, right? Like, because when there's no feeling you're unwilling to feel, there's so much less resistance, there's so much less fear. And that's kind of oversimplifying it, because obviously we all have lived experiences and conditioning, or how we were raised, that affects it, and that might come up with that. But that's kind of on a simple, basic level of just something you guys can do, you know, or anyone can do on their own at home, is just saying it's allowed to be here, and connecting into where it is. And just kind of imagine the child there and being like, okay, you can stand with me, you can sit with me, we're safe here. And just creating a safe space in your body. That's really what it's about, is creating safety. Because with, again, in, you know, recovery, it's like you're trying to create safety that maybe alcohol or something else created at one time or another. It numbed it enough for you to feel safe, right? It quieted it enough to feel safe. So it's asking, how can you create the safety that you want in your body?
I had, you know, it's I run from it, or I feel shame, you know, not that other people can see it, but that because, you know, I know this is going to sound pig-headed, but it's like a guy playing sports his whole life. What are we told? You know, tough it out. You know, I sure as hell am not going to go up to my buddies and say, can you believe at the end, wasn't that, you know, he asked his dad to play. It was so you know, it played catch one last time. I'm not going to do that. I know my buddy Mark is watching. I could do that with him. Mark, haha, you know who I'm talking to. He's another one. But, you know, my conditioning was, you don't show it. You don't show fear. You hide it. And that was, so I thought I was you know, I am a weenie, because I'm sitting here getting emotional at these things, and I'm supposed to be a big, you know, strong, tough guy. And I'm getting over a movie that's not even real or whatever, you know, and feeling the pain of others, or an animal. Yeah, you see something, an animal getting hurt or mistreated. We deal a lot with, and some of the other groups are, with trauma about things and letting them go. And this is one, Peggy, that I just came up to, but I saw, I'm not even gonna tell you what it was. It was a YouTube video that I saw of a mistreating of an animal that messed me up. I mean, I literally prayed asking God, take that one away from me, because that destroyed me. It just made me anger, everything. I couldn't let it, and I know other guys that saw the same video and just, oh man, that's messed up, whatever. They let it go. It didn't bother them. And it really, I was ticked that I watched it, or that someone showed it to me.
Mm-hmm.
So but I've been told my whole life, tough it out, stop crying, get over it. You're fine. Don't, get tough. So I buried all that. And the one thing I've learned, whether it's with drinking or trauma or whatever, when I bury it or I pour alcohol over it, it ain't going away.
Mm-hmm.
It's still inside of me. I might have buried it under a 12-pack of beer, a case of beer. But it is not left me. So I don't know how, I don't know if you deal with that, but how to, because it's when I'm learning to get some of the stuff out on the table. If I can at least put it out on the table, get it out of me and put it in front of me, I have a chance to work on it. At least I can see what I have to work on. And then I got a chance at fixing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Brene Brown, you guys might be familiar with her, but she's an author, and she says that she studies shame, and she says shame breeds in silence. And that's why I think it's really obviously supportive and beautiful to have communities like you two do, because it kind of suffocates shame a little bit, or it starts to take away its air, right? Because if you're, silently doing something, that shame is breeding more and more and more. And then, in your case of the example you gave, Jeff, it's kind of a vicious cycle, right? Because being an empath, or being more sensitive, or feeling things deeply, is who you are, as a person. And because of conditioning, going back to the subconscious mind, right? Those things on a loop in the back of your mind that you might be aware of or not aware of at times, but those kind of like the background noise is saying, run from it, or don't feel it, or that, again, like that meaning I was talking about. What does it mean about you? For you, it means I'm a weenie, I'm not good enough, or I'm not tough enough, or whatever it is.
Mm.
But the interesting thing to me is that, and why I say, sensitivity is not a bad thing, it's a superpower, because it's a hell of a lot harder to feel your feelings and to actually be vulnerable and like let yourself go there, right, than it is to run away from it. Like it takes sometimes more effort, because it can be intense to feel your feelings. And so something else too is that energetically, as empaths and as highly sensitive people, we're taking in a lot of energy from other people and feeling into them. And with the highly sensitive person trait, we get overstimulated really easily by crowds or stuff like that. So even with what you said with like a wedding, like it's a lot of people, it's a lot of stimulation, and energetically that can be a lot. And then what's going on mentally, emotionally can be a lot. And it can get kind of stuck in your physical body. And that's also why that practice of sort of noticing where it is, breathing through it, can allow it to kind of move through your body, because it can get stuck. Like, again, with covering with drinking, it's still keeping that stuff stuck inside you. So I love what you said about getting it out in the open, right? Like moving that energy in your body. It feels better. It mentally, emotionally feels better to talk about it and start to kind of move through it. Something else I also do, I don't know if anyone here is familiar with EFT or tapping, but you're tapping on different meridian parts in your body. Like I don't know if you guys have seen that, but you're tapping on different parts of your body, and it's helping to move that energy as well. Which kind of leads me also into something super vital and important to know as an empath, especially someone I think in recovery, is self-care is vital. And I know sometimes there's been this whole thing of like, oh, it's trendy, like self-care, but genuinely having practices that allow you to, one, let your nervous system sort of come back to zero, whether, you know, it's you're at work or around at an event or whatever it is, kind of let your nervous system sort of decompress, kind of take the air out of the balloon a little bit, let it come back to equilibrium, and connect back in with the feelings that are true to you, and asking, okay, what's yours emotionally and what's not yours, right? Like it was that YouTube video, maybe you're feeling all these feelings in your body, and yes, it's obviously it's real because you're feeling it, but you can also say, okay, I know that this is not, I didn't start the morning with this, right? Like that's something else you can do in the morning, is check in. How am I feeling? And just kind of practice an awareness of knowing how you feel in the morning. Like maybe you wake up and you're like, I'm super anxious. Or maybe you wake up and you're like, wow, I feel pretty even keel today. Like I feel pretty okay. And so as you go throughout your day, you can kind of notice, okay, maybe this thing happened with a coworker or something, or they were really upset, and you come home and you're like super upset. You can go, okay, well, I didn't start the day with this. What happened? And you can kind of reflect what happened in my day. Okay, that thing bothered me. I'm an empath. I know that that's going to affect me, but now I can kind of split and differentiate what is theirs and what is mine. Because I think for a lot of you guys, like there's a lot going on, right? There's a lot you're moving through each day with, you know, these challenges, and that you're committing to. And so being able to differentiate what is not yours and what is yours, and give your nervous system a break and kind of refill your cup, will help you kind of feel more grounded.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jeff and I are crazy journalers. We actually talk about our journals a lot, and really that I never journaled one day. I mean, I have 18 empty journals before I stopped drinking, and then I just decided I was going to record every feeling that I had. Do you have some feelings around journaling and how that actually helps you get some of that stuff out as well?
I do. Yeah. I love journaling because, so I like personally like to do like stream of consciousness. I don't know if that's kind of what you guys do, but I literally oftentimes I'll just type on my computer, and I'm not kidding. I don't even look at the keyboard. I just type and type and type and type and type anything that just comes out. I don't care about grammar. I don't care about anything. I just get it out. And sometimes I'll reread it. Sometimes I won't ever reread it, but I do think that's a really good way to kind of release what's all in here and just let it out. I've also done it when I do feel really inundated as an empath from people around me, things I'm going through. And it feels, especially as someone, I went through a deep depression, anxiety, panic attacks. And I felt like my mind was moving 3 million miles a minute. And I would used to say, I felt like I couldn't slow it down enough to even know what my own thoughts were. So journaling helped me a lot personally to kind of like force myself literally to slow down and see my thoughts and see what I was feeling. And that also helped me to differentiate what is mine, what is not mine. And that's a big part of it too. Again, it's like as an empath, if you're feeling all those feelings from people around me and it's really intense, or there's a family situation going on and someone's venting to you about it, you're feeling all those feelings, and that's going to make you maybe have those moments where you're like, I need something to take the edge off. And that's where you can say, okay, hold on, I'm going to get clear on what I'm feeling, maybe journal it out, understand what's coming up, and then come back to how can I create safety in my body? How can I create safety energetically? So I'm a big believer in journaling, but with that said, I also want to say that I guess two things. One, I might have mentioned this earlier, but like as an empath or HSP, like there's nothing wrong with you. I want to like throw that out there. There's nothing wrong, but and I think too, you can listen to your intuition if journaling sounds good to you or that you feel called to it, great, do it. If you don't, know that that doesn't have to be the thing that you go to. So yeah, I and I'm sure you guys feel the same. I love journaling.
I love that you brought that up, because for some people it's music, for some people it's just, and it's a combination of things. It could be, grounding, tapping, whatever works for you. And I think the wonderful thing about having you here and having getting sober in this day and age is that there are so many options. It really is to find that recipe that really works for you. So I really like that. I know that, and Jeff and I met in TLC, which is the luckiest club, with Laura McCowan, and she has like 28 meetings a week, and they all start with some sort of breathing technique, centering, pulling yourself back into your body. And I'm, even just this morning, I got up and I was really unsettled. Super, and I don't get that way very much anymore. I usually wake up going, I didn't drink last night and I feel really good and I'm not going to have a hangover today. But I woke up really, I had some dreams, and which I don't normally have either. And I was super unsettled, and I just started doing what you said. We call it morning pages. I just started writing, and I just can't even tell you how that it was that separation. This isn't you. This has nothing to do with you. This has to do with, and had a little bit to do with future tripping, right? That I was like, oh my God, I had this meeting last night and not all the people showed up, and people were quiet and they didn't really talk, and maybe I'm not a good facilitator, and maybe this is not something I need to be doing. But having that conversation with myself really, really helped, because I know none of that's true, right? In reality, there was a few people that spoke up that never speak up, and how wonderful was that new people were speaking up. But you can really start to have that internal dialogue where you're just beating yourself up, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think that is a really, especially when you're learning to become more aware. I like to say that the foundation, I think, to having like more self-growth or working on your self-growth is awareness, is self-awareness, and awareness of your thoughts, awareness of your feelings, awareness of your body. So I think that's a good thing with journaling, is it kind of forces you, right, to get really real with yourself, and just, there's no judgments. There's no one else has to read it. You're not reading it to anyone else. And it's like your place to just sort of word vomit, if you will, or brainstorm, or whatever you want to do with it, but to just kind of become, clear on what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you desire. And if anyone here is familiar with like inner child healing, I think journaling also is really helpful for that, because maybe there's something even in your experience where that came up, and maybe that's something from childhood. It's something to look at. And I think it's also important to know that you can write it down, and you don't have to shine a flashlight on it and say, what does this mean about me, or what's behind this? You can just write it down and let it go. And that's what I was saying sometimes, where I'll just write, and I literally, there's so many entries I've never read again. I wrote it out and I've never reread it. And others that I will words, I'll reread like 10 times in a row, because it brings clarity. So totally resonate with what you said.
The journaling thing, and the benefits are huge, but when I started, it was my penmanship stinks. So it's my hand cramps from writing. I think faster than I can write, so it ticks me off because my words are behind my thoughts. And that's why, and I'll pick on my buddy Mark again, but having if you can find someone where I can talk it out, if I've got someone to talk it to me, that is like journaling. I usually go back and then I'll journal after, because now my thoughts have settled. But I can spew to a friend, a trusted friend, as fast as my mind is thinking too, whereas my hand couldn't keep up. And then I was like, what the hell was I'm writing from 5 thoughts, and now I forgot what I thought, so I'm getting better at it, but that was a struggle as well. But I don't know. For me, the talking and then journaling is kind of the path that's working best for me right now. And to have someone that I can actually share something and not feel like I'm getting laughed at, for having the emotions that I was having is nice. It's fortunate if I can find that. And both ways are getting it out. I did want to ask you though, because it's your work, if being an empath is potentially good because I care more about people, I have more emotions, why am I going to see you to get help with dealing with them? I don't know what I'm trying to figure out what the negative is. Now I got destroyed. And if you ever want to talk about this, Rachel, but by panic attacks. I mean, I magna cum laude, master's degree. I got them. I was destroyed by them. So I know all about them. And I tried everything, but that's something. So that would be a reason for, I would have been banging on your door and shoving credit cards underneath it and saying, I don't care, let me in and fix this problem. That's how bad it was. If I had been able to get to your office, because there's, God forbid there was a bridge to cross to get to your office. I never would have made it if that was the case. That's another topic. But why is if I'm going to see you because I'm an empath, what are the negatives? Why am I going to see you? What is wrong with if all this emotion is actually good that I'm feeling?
Yeah. So I think for me, like, I mean, why I wanted to, first of all, I didn't know I wanted to be a coach for a really long time. I thought I was going down a whole different career path. I was like veterinarian. And then I was like, nope, can't see sick animals because I'm an empath. So anyways, it led me into, long story short, I realized I wanted to be a coach, and I knew I wanted to coach other empaths and highly sensitive people because I felt like I experienced a very low feeling misunderstood, feeling unworthy, feeling like there was something wrong with me, feeling like I couldn't handle life and other people seemingly handled it fine. And I was comparing myself and all these different things. And so I did tons and tons of inner work, and which is always ongoing, but I knew I wanted to coach other sensitive souls because there is so much fear around feeling, right? Like there's so much, like I was talking about, that resistance, that fear, those stories. And so because I work with the subconscious mind, it's helping to rewire your identity. So it's helping to rewire, like I ask questions and we delve deeper into what's behind those feelings, those thoughts, those things, and how can we move through it? How can we feel safety? How can we build more self-esteem, more self-love, more self-acceptance, so that you don't have to feel unworthy, so that you don't have to feel overwhelmed, so you don't have to avoid difficult conversations and say, okay, well, I don't want to talk to my partner about this because that may make me talk about this thing or feel this way, or with work or whatever it is. And I've worked with clients who are very different types of people, but I think the main thing is, the thing I've heard the most from clients I've worked with is, I'm not afraid to feel my feelings anymore. And like, that's, I think the biggest thing is people are afraid to feel their feelings. And maybe consciously, yeah, there's certain things they aren't afraid to feel, but there are certain scenarios where it just becomes very intense and there's things bubbling to the surface, or someone feels stuck and they don't know why. So I think as a sensitive person, there's a lot with, again, back to society, back to conditioning. There's a lot of things where we tend to feel kind of alone and like, I don't really get it. And with what I do and the training I've had, it's from a trauma-informed lens. And it's knowing, like, it's being able to hold space for someone to have that outlet, to have that place to say, I'm dealing with this, or these emotions are coming up. I don't know why. I don't know how to move through them. I'm having, whatever it is, like I'm feeling anxious because of this, or I can't get myself to do X, Y, Z, and I don't know why. And it's helping to, I always say, nothing's one size fits all. So it's helping to find a strategy and implement things that are true to you based on your lived experience. Because at the end of the day, I'm not anyone else. We're not each other. We're all different people. And so it's really being specific about what is your experience, what feels true to you, and kind of feeling at peace and in love with your truest self, not this version you think you have to be, or what you should be, or what your parent thought you should be, or how you should react. Does that answer your question? It's kind of long.
Yeah, no, it does. I just, I was struggling because I can see where it was very, the fact that I do care a lot about someone else is great, but the fact that I can't let certain things go is probably, a negative, that I can't, maybe I don't process them like I should. I don't know if that is, but I think looking at it, if you said, I've got we know this person that she can fix your empath. I don't know if I want to, well, no, I like the good part of it. I don't want to give that up. I like being a caring person and, having that emotion. It's, I guess maybe it's good as long as I can control it, manage it. I don't know.
Yeah. So what I do is like helping to navigate life as a deep feeler is like often what I refer to it as. It's like, yeah, it's like learning how to exactly like not let those things just not fester over them. Or, I mean, I had a client come to me and I hadn't heard anything from her ever. And it was just first message, I think I need to hire you because I can't take a compliment without crying. Like something like that, where it was like, there's certain feelings and thoughts subconsciously. Again, obviously talk about that a lot, but that made it so she didn't feel worthy of even taking a compliment. And so there are things, as empaths that we're all affected differently. There's plenty of people that can take a compliment that are an empath. I couldn't for a hell of a long time. I was deeply uncomfortable with anyone saying anything nice about me. It made me physically uncomfortable.
I hate them. I hate compliments. Yeah. I like hearing that. Hey, Rachel said you did a good job, or Rachel said, I don't like hearing it from Rachel. I don't mind hearing, that Peggy says, oh, Rachel said, you did a great job. That doesn't bother me. But if Rachel calls me direct and looks me in the eye and says, hey, you did, stop. I don't want to hear that. I can't. Right. It drives my wife nuts because she'll say you look nice. And I can feel this just kick me. I hate hearing it.
Yeah. And
it's like, I don't know why, because most people love hearing you look good. Now I hate hearing that I look good. I almost don't want to walk into a room in a suit that I know I probably look good in, because it's like, I don't want people looking at me and saying, you look nice. I hate it. I don't know why. And I can't figure that out.
Yeah. I think for a lot of empaths, we're more comfortable with like the limelight being on other people, or we're more comfortable helping other people than even helping ourselves or anything like that. And that's, the compliment thing was rough for me. But I realized it was wires were being crossed. It was like, they're saying one thing. And sometimes I think of it like, you remember that game Whack-A-Mole at arcades? Sometimes I think of like, it's like the subconscious mind and the conscious mind being, basically it's like a belief being like, nope, nope, nope. Like that doesn't align with our belief system. That doesn't align with the things I've thought about myself for my whole life. I personally struggled a lot with like body image and disordered eating and stuff. And so if somebody said something nice about me, I was like, no, because my beliefs were very different from what they were saying. And so it was like this resistance, and again, physical, emotional, mental resistance to what they're saying. So yeah, it's just another thing to look at kind of in our self journey. But yeah, there's a lot of things with being an empath, and again, there's the added thing of the added aspect of you're feeling their feelings with it. So there's a lot to it.
Well, and there's so much more. I mean, I teach for University of Davis, and we teach social work, and we have a lot of scientists that are neurologists and all that. And there's so much science behind it, right? Because one, we have 5 times as many threat receptors in our brain as we do reward receptors. So we really run from any kind of threat. And so we have that, and that just protects us, right? That's from being in the caves, because we had to be aware of the fear, or we wouldn't survive, right? We had to make sure that we were gonna survive. And yeah, I mean, there's so much science behind it. I think that's what I love about talking to you. We talked before, is that when there's science behind it, it makes it more understandable, and then it becomes not my fault. It is what it is, and then how do I push off from here? Right? And how do I fit it in without losing it? I love what Jeff said. I like being an empath. I like crying at the movie Big, and I can't go outside for 10 minutes because my eyes are all red and I look like a total dork, right? And and it's funny because when we went to go see Big, all four of us felt that way. We're all crying our eyes out, and then we all sat there in the theater for like 10 minutes because we're like, God, we're crying at a movie with a piano on the floor. So
it's the scene when he turns around when she looks again and he's the little kid and he looks back at her with those big clothes on.
yes, sobbing. I think everybody in the theater was sobbing. But I think when we do figure out what the science is, then we don't blame ourselves, right, for it. It's just part of who we are, and we sort of deal with it because, and again, I think we talked before too, if it's disabling your life, then you got to do something about it. If it's affecting your life in a negative way, then that's why we come to Rachel, right?
That makes sense.
Like anything else, you've got a food eating disorder, you're not going to go to, well, you might be able to go to you. I don't even know if that was kind of messy and not really a great question, but Carrie, save me, Rachel, save me.
I got you. Yeah. Another piece of it too is like, is intuition. We do have, I would say a more finely tuned intuition, or just kind of a stronger intuition naturally. Many empaths, it's like maybe you walk into a place and you're like, I'm getting a weird vibe from this place, or I'm getting a bad vibe from this person. We feel it, energetically before, anything else. And that's something too, is I've had people that are just like, I don't even know what brings me happiness. Like they just feel out of touch. And again, I relate completely because I definitely was there at a time in my life. And they're just like, I really don't know what would bring me joy. I don't know where to start. I don't know what habit, I don't know what habits or whatever I want to implement because I don't know what sounds good. And they feel so separate from self that it just feels like flailing. Like they're just kind of there, just in neutral, not really going anywhere. And that's another thing is like, if you really feel like you want your life to be moving forward, you want to be clear. Like that's a big thing I do in hypnosis sessions is, whatever you're moving through is like, it's like ordering a sandwich. Like we are going to go through every single thing you want in your life, let's say it's like, I don't know, fear around having children or something as an example. Maybe we'll go through, okay, well, how do you imagine a day in your life with kids? And what does your house look like? What is the entryway of your home look like? Where are you sitting? What texture is your couch? Like we get really clear. And that's obviously like a very granular example because it's hypnosis, which is a whole nother topic, but it's asking your subconscious mind, it's getting in touch with yourself and saying, what do you want? And you can, and that's the thing. And like, I guess that's even a bigger thing I should really like highlight in this whole chat is that all of the answers, and I know that this might sound cliche or oversimplified, but all of the answers you are seeking are inside yourself, are inside your brain, are inside your body. And for years, I thought that they were all external. I was like, someone tell me what to do because your girl is lost. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to turn. And I felt really hopeless. And once I started believing that the answers were inside of me and I started seeing it, through therapy and through being coached by other people, you start to build again, that self-esteem, that self-acceptance, that self-love. And, I think there's like a kind of a blueprint that society gives for like being the correct human, being a right human, living your life the right way. It seems very single track. And again, it's like, that's where being an empath isn't bad. Like we are all very different. We all have fingerprints different fingerprints for a reason because we're very different people. That's the way I like to think of it. Like we don't need to be put in a box. Like you don't have to have the same self-care routine as everyone else. You don't have to have the same career as everyone else. You don't have to anything all the same. And I think when you can kind of let that sink into your brain and say, I don't have to be the same as someone else. We can share similar challenges and things like that, but I don't have to be the same as someone else. And I can ask myself for the answers. I can trust my intuition. I can, be guided. Basically, that's what I do is I ask questions and we're working through things to lead you to your answers. Because I'm not here to tell anyone this is how you live your life. I'm here to honor your lived experience, honor your conditioning, honor what's coming up for you based on your life, and ask the questions to lead you to what's true for you. And
I
then
love that. I really want to say something about that because that's what I teach too. We have the answers in our bodies.
Mhm.
If we're not drinking and we're not eating too much, we're not having, well, too much sex. I feel weird saying that at my age because that's not going to happen. But if we sit with ourselves, we know the answers. Like even with my own children who are probably a little bit older than you, when they come to me and they say, I've got this job offer and I don't know if I should take it or not. Well, I already know they've already thought about it. They thought about the pros. Well, what do you think's good about taking that job? What do you think are some of the challenges? And what do you think you might do next? And to me, that's what honors other people, Rachel, is that people already have ideas in their heads. They already know what they want to do. They want to be validated. And the worst thing that I think you can do to people is say, well, I think you should do this. Because then I automatically turn into a BITCH when someone tells me what they think I should be doing. Right? Paul, my husband, right? So I love that your practice allows people to find the answers they already have inside of them.
Yeah. And it teaches people how to do it for themselves, right? Because it's like, I am not, I will help, but I'm not the answer, right? Like I don't.
And you don't want to be.
Yeah. Well,
I don't want to be.
Exactly. And
I'm a social worker and I want to work myself. I tell every client that I'm not in direct practice anymore. But when I was a social worker, I said, I want to work myself out of a job. I don't want there to be any need for social workers in the entire world. That's what I want.
Yeah. Cause no coach should be just telling you what to do. It's like, I'm going to give you tools. I'm going to give you resources. I'm going to give you information. I'm going to ask you questions. You take what resonates. You decide what works for you. And really no coach or therapist or anybody should create a codependent relationship, because it's about giving you the tools, empowering you to be like, hell yeah. Okay. Now I know what I want. Now I know where I'm going. Now I know what to do in this situation. Now I know how to set boundaries. That's a huge thing. I mean, we could probably talk for like 5 more hours about boundaries, but boundaries are so important, especially in recovery, right? Because you're having to set a boundary. Like Jeff, for you, a boundary is, I'm going to walk in with a drink in my hand, because it sets a visual boundary that no one's going to go, can I get you something to drink? Because you're like, nope, I'm good. I got I'm chilling. Like, I got Diet Coke all day. Like, no problem. What'd you say?
No, it's the battles. It's not a sponsor, but
Pepsi.
I'm a Diet Pepsi.
I'm so sorry about that.
Of course, this is how bad my thing is. Yeah. Right now, everyone's going, you got a real problem, Jeff. You gave up alcohol, but the one place I went, stopped on the way today driving here, they didn't have Diet Pepsi, so I had to buy a Diet Coke. Anyways, that's a whole nother topic. But you know what drives me nuts about you though is, and I know you're right, and I love that you're right, but I hated when I do all this stuff and all you've done, and then we get the answer, and all you've done is go, well, tell me about that. Tell me about that. It's like, no, I came to you for the answers, and now you're going to make me work for it, and it's all inside. It's like, why did I need you? But I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. I think that actually is like even a good example of like rewiring your mind, right? Because even like, I know you're making a joke of being like, oh, Jeff, you got a problem with, how you're saying people say you got a problem because now you got all these like sodas or whatever. But I think that's great. Like, in my opinion, that's a moment where you can like celebrate yourself, honestly. I mean, I think that's a thing where you can celebrate yourself and go, hell yeah. Okay, cool. Like, I'm setting this boundary and now I'm walking in like prepared. Like, you can celebrate yourself, like, and just be like, yes, I'm good to go. Like, grab your suit jacket. I'm good to go. Like, you set that boundary. Or even, I don't know, if there's something being served and you just kind of need to step outside, like setting a boundary for yourself. I'm going to step outside. If I'm uncomfortable, I'm going to like get a breath. Why are words so hard? Breath of fresh air. Anything like that. But like, to me, that's like, and I know you're kidding, but it's like, that's even a moment.
No, but it's, I'm making light of it, but it's true. It's, it gives me a comfort to go in. It gives me, I'm going to, the boundary of I'm going to, some people driving the car to a party where hey, I have the ability to sneak out if I need. I have an escape plan. I've got an alternative. I've got a solution, and that makes it a lot easier. So yeah, no, I know I drink way too much Diet Pepsi. I know it's bad, all that stuff, but
No
it's
judgment.
at the same time, hey, you know what? I'm sober. I'm happy. My family's happy with me. My work is happy with me, and I'm actually starting to be happy with me. So you know what? If I'm going to drink some aspartame, I realize it's not the best, but you know what? I'm smiling, and I wasn't
That's a
2
different
years
show.
ago.
That's your sober nutritionist show.
I know.
Rachel, we're heading, like, we got about 5 minutes left. So I was wondering if there's something that you wanted the listeners to know that we haven't asked you. And then also making sure that we have your contact information, because I think that you're exactly.
Yeah, I want to definitely put some stuff up. I think there's a lot of people that this is going to strike a lot of nerves with. So I want to make sure we get all your and I'll put that on the website. I'll put it on the pages as well.
Yeah, he has a resource website. He has a website with resources on there, so he'll add you to that. But is something you would like our listeners to know that we haven't asked you tonight?
Well, something I was going to say just now that I think might be another like overarching thing. Again, there's like, I feel like it's kind of like, there's so many like tentacles to like being an empath and all these different things I could talk about. But I think the biggest one is knowing, like, again, there's nothing wrong with you. You know, there's nothing wrong with being a sensitive person. Like, it's not a bad thing. And then it's so important to celebrate yourself and to celebrate the small wins and to make things okay. Again, like Peggy, you touched on, a lot of it comes down to validation. A lot of things come down to validation, and we seek external validation, but ask your subconscious mind, it'll search for the answer. How can I create more how can I validate myself? How can I create more self-validation? How can I celebrate myself more? And just kind of ask yourself that, and maybe each morning, or write it down each day. Like, usually with my clients, every time we meet, I'm like, all right, what are some things you're celebrating? And what are some things that were difficult to move through? And because we tend to kind of skip over the things that should be celebrated. So that's a big one, is celebrating. Like, you know, Jeff, I think it's great. Like, celebrate yourself for going to this event, celebrate yourself for showing up prepared, celebrate yourself for like living a life that feels good to you. And another thing is, like, every time that you commit to yourself, and, you know, recovery is a big one, is it's all these small commitments all throughout the day. It's like all these small things you're doing, you are recommitting to yourself. And with the added layer, I think, of being an empath, like, if you need to set a boundary, if you need to step outside, if you need to tell a loved one, you see a text and you say, you know, I really want to give a thoughtful response to this, but I need some time, I'll come back to this. Like, those little things you do for yourself to put yourself first, celebrate that. And that is going to build more self-love. That's going to build more self-esteem. And it's like these small little easy things. And I'll end with this. Like, the biggest thing is that self-growth and this whole journey, it's not about being perfect. It's not about it looking how it does for somebody else. It's not about you doing the same thing every day at the same time. It's about self-validation and self-forgiveness, giving yourself grace and giving yourself love in all of the small moments. Like the fact that you woke up and get to have a hot cup of coffee, like, celebrate that, you know, celebrate that you even asked yourself how you were feeling. And Peggy, that you even noticed you felt kind of off, like, celebrate that. Like, wow, I'm celebrating, I'm practicing self-awareness. Good for me. So yeah, small moments of celebration and forgiveness and kindness to yourself. You know, ask yourself, how can I be kinder to myself? That was a really long answer, but
no, it's, you know, Rachel, I you hit so much, and stay on when we hang up here, but
okay.
I can tell one thing, that one person that's not going to be happy with you, and that's my wife, because every time from now, she's gonna probably send you a nasty letter, because every time she says, why can't you just take a compliment? Sweetie, I'm an empath. Okay. She's going to be so sick of hearing the word empath, because every time it's like, you drive, sweetie, I'm I'm an empath. I'm very sensitive. So
That's
please
funny.
understand, call Rachel. So yeah, so we're going to have a good time with it, but wow, you really, I'm going to have to go back and rewatch this thing, and I want to talk with you further, but just to like the compliments thing, why I can't take them, and the rewiring because of my image, what I saw, and why I don't believe you when you're saying that makes sense because I don't believe you. I don't see what you say you're seeing. I don't see it. I know I'm right. You're lying for one is not a sincere compliment because I know the truth, which I know that is probably not. I know that it's probably not the truth, but it still feels like the truth.
Yeah. Well, and it's like you get to honor that. You get to honor that that's real for you. That's your real feelings. And I think too, sometimes I'll say this quickly, but with compliments, it can feel like such a stretch because we feel like we have to agree with the person to accept the compliment. So
Yeah.
something that a coach of mine said to me that was so helpful, and tip for everybody, if you have a hard time taking compliments, I think the easiest thing to say is, I receive that. You're not agreeing. You don't have to agree. You know, it's telling your mind, okay, I don't have to agree. That doesn't have to feel true for me. I'm just receiving it. It's like someone giving you a gift. You know, you're just like, oh, like maybe this is uncomfortable, but you're not going to like throw it back at them. You're just going to hold it in your hand awkwardly until you get out of the situation.
But I do a lousy job. I think I tick people off, and it's unfair because they're being nice. They're giving me a gift, and I am throwing it. I am throwing it back at them.
Why don't you take Rachel's suggestion and try it?
No, I trust me. We're going I'm meeting them there at dinner right now. And I'm going to meet over with a bunch of people, and when I walk in, I guarantee the compliments are going to, no, I just know this group. I know this group, so this will be a good little practice just to say, you know, I take it as a gift. So even though I don't believe it, but that's great. Well, Rachel, thanks so much. Peggy, I love you, and I love having you on, and this will be, so Rachel, hang on just a second. It is, we'll be here Saturday morning from Vail just to give some updates. I'm not sure who we have lined up or what, but please join us. And we also, I think we're doing Tuesday night, we're going to do a bunch of the dudes. I think we're going to do a panel discussion, and got some ideas for that, but that'll be fun. So anyways, have a great weekend. We'll see you Saturday morning, and
Thanks.
we'll talk soon. Take care.